How you doing? My name is Dr. Diaz. I am a practicing physician here in Florida. And you might have heard that the CDC now has been recommending to use the cloth masks whenever you are outside and about and in a place where you're going to be engaging other people. I'm going to start off by saying that I have some people ask me, say, why is this recommendation happening now? Why weren't we told about this before? So if we knew everything that there is to know about this disease, we would be far better right now. This is a very fluid situation. It's a very dynamic environment, and a lot of the recommendations that are being made in different countries all over the world is based on the information that's available. So there is new information that has been more and more evident, I guess, throughout the world, where people that are still not showing symptoms could potentially be infected and be transmitting it to other people. And there's two concepts behind that. Number one is what we call the asymptomatic individual. I don't believe that there's actually right now any evidence that that is the case, where people can be carriers or not having had the disease at all. I think there's going to be a lot more information about that as time passes. But we do know that between the time that you get infected and the time that you actually are showing symptoms, there is a window where you are more infective. So that window apparently is just a little bit longer than what we used to know. And for several days prior to an individual who's infected showing symptoms, you can clearly pass that on to somebody else. So having that said, the CDC has changed their position on the use of people that don't have any symptoms, for the general population that's out and about, to actually wear masks. I want to show you some of the masks that we have in healthcare. This is the typical mask that you'll see, a lot of healthcare providers use. These are two other different types of masks that we use. If you already have these, go ahead and use them. Quite frankly, that might be the only option that you might have. But these are non-reusable masks. And every time that you use one of these masks is one less mask for a healthcare provider who might need it. And unfortunately, there are a lot of places right now where healthcare providers are having to reuse non-reusable masks, and that increases the risk of them becoming infected, who are the individuals that are coming primarily in contact and have the higher risk for infection. So please, if you have them, use them. Remember, you use them one time. Really, you shouldn't be using it again, so you're going to have to probably stick to some of the newer information on how to wear a cloth mask. But try to keep these for the healthcare providers. The Surgeon General just put out some information in regards to the masks and the CDC recommendation, and he has a short video on how you can create your own mask. Of course, this video is for people that either cannot buy one online or people who are not crafty enough to have a sewing machine and make their own. There are some online videos that you can actually use if you are crafty enough to kind of make your own, which is great. But this is for some of us who are not at that level and need to improvise. So the recommendation to take anything that actually is cotton, nice cloth. I'm going to show you some things. There are videos online already about using something like a t-shirt. The concept of the mask that you're going to use, whatever cloth that you're going to choose to use, is to actually fold it over itself to create several layers. I'm going to say this now before I forget. There are two things that are very important when you're making your mask. Number one is that it fits properly. And what you need to do is you need to make sure that the area over the nostrils, right, above the nose, and all around the mouth, all the way down to the chin, are properly covered. So if you are using a mask that is only covering your mouth, like unfortunately I have seen a lot of people out there use, you're not really doing anything. Also, people that have the mask over their chin or the forehead just because it's uncomfortable, you're not doing anything. That's like seeing a motorcycle rider with the helmet tied to the back. So having that said, you need to make sure that whatever you're using is going to properly fit. And I'm not going to use this t-shirt right now for the example. I'm going to use something simpler, but the concept still applies. What I want to show you is something that millennials might not know what they are. These are handkerchiefs. This is a lost product in younger generations. Older generations used to carry these. Men used to carry two, one for the boogers and another one for the ladies. So having that said, this is a handkerchief. This is the easier thing to do. Now, you can keep folding this upon itself, or you can actually do what I'm doing right now, which is taking two handkerchiefs, opening them up, and putting them right on top of each other. And again, the concept is to start folding the handkerchief over by itself, as so that you create several layers. Now, I think this might fit me. What I do is I just try it on first to see. It might be just a little bit too short, so I'm going to go ahead and refold this a little bit better, and that looks a little bit better for me. So once you have that, what you're going to do is on the corner, if you have these rubber bands, which some of us don't have at home, but if you do, you're going to put the rubber band through whatever impromptu cloth mask you are going to use. And here's it on the other end. You do the same thing as such. And what you're going to do is you're going to basically fold that one more time over the rubber band, like so. So now you have the cloth mask, multiple layers, as wide as you need it. You're going to put it over your face, take the rubber band over your ears to hold it in place. Now, what I would recommend is just keep in mind the two things. Number one, it needs to be properly fitting, covering your nose and covering your mouth, and ideally just tucked in. So if you can tuck that in a little bit all around, you're good to go. Now, here's what I am going to foresee be a problem. Touching the mask. It's uncomfortable. Most of us are not used to be wearing masks. I mean, people that are in healthcare, they're used to, but the general population is not used to having this around the face. It's a little bit tight, and it's supposed to be a little bit tight. What you don't want to do is be readjusting this mask when you're out and about. This is a good time to say that just before you make something like this, you really need to wash your hands really well with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Take your time, be patient. We have plenty of time now, so you can do it a little bit longer. Make sure you cover all areas, both in the front and the back of the hands and underneath the nails. You can also use a hand sanitizer, at least with 70% alcohol, which I think is the current recommendation to do. And this is not a substitute for social distancing. This does not mean that I can get closer to people now. You still need to, keep up with the guidelines of staying at least 6 feet apart from everybody else. More importantly, don't touch your face, even if you have a mask on. Just forget about that. That's a bad habit. You shouldn't be doing that anyway. So I'm gonna show you something also that different things that you can use. Not only a handkerchief, since this is something that most millennials will not have at home, but you can also use bandanas. Bandanas, I'll do the same thing here. I have a couple of bandanas, and I have this one, which is the ones that I sometimes will use for my motorcycle riding. For you motorcycle fans out there, always wear a helmet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do the same thing. I'm going to just create my cloth mask wide enough to cover me. Just make sure you measure it. Now, here's the one thing that I wanted to show everybody. Not everybody has rubber bands at home. Some of us, don't have an office at home and have no need for rubber bands. So now we got to go buy some rubber bands. This is a very good option. Just take a pair of shoes that are old and you don't use and just take the shoelace off. What I would recommend with this is to take the shoelace and to make just one loop around and immediately make a second loop around. That's going to make that a little bit tighter for what we're going to use. So you're going to do this, put it aside. You're going to take the other shoelace. You're going to do one loop and a second loop, just like so, and you're gonna put it on the other side. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay that over the corner there. I'm gonna fold it just like I'm folding a rubber band. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this up as much as I can to get it really close to a decent sized loop that's gonna go over my ear. Now of course, I'm gonna have a lot of string left over. What you wanna do with that, at the end, you can do whatever you wish to do. I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm gonna go to the other end and do the same thing. I'm gonna fold this over like I showed you earlier with the handkerchiefs. And I'm gonna take my loop and I'm gonna tighten that up enough so that it gives me a decent size loop to go over my ear. Now the reason for doing that double loop around itself is just because it's gonna stay a little bit tighter behind the ear while we put the mask on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and grab my mask, put it on. I'm gonna gently put that over my ear, go all the way around here, do the same thing. Now that's gonna stay, this cloth is very light, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and tighten that loop behind my ear, do the same thing over here. I'm gonna tighten that up to make sure that it's nice and tight. Now when I have the perfect size loop, I'm gonna go ahead and very gently, I'm gonna take one side off, I'm gonna take the other side off, and now I have the loop size that's gonna fit my ear. This is my mask. This is not to be used by anybody else, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just make an official knot, right? So I'm gonna do one more loop around that. I'm gonna make sure that that ties in very tightly. And again, what you wanna do with the rest of these, I'll leave up to you if you wanna cut it. That's your decision. I'm gonna leave mine on. And here's another loop right here. Perfect. So now, these loops are fixed. They're not gonna move around. The mask is gonna be tight over my face. I'm gonna try this one more time. Loop around, and I'm done. Again, you wanna cut these, I wanna just throw them in the back. I want to make sure that my entire nose is covered, my chin, my mouth is covered. I want to tuck that in as best as I can and ready to go. Now, the benefit of doing this, these also go in the washer. You can't put a rubber band in the washer. Ideally, you would have to throw those away and use other 2 rubber bands the next time you want to use a mask, but you can throw this entire thing in the washer and take care of it as well. I'm going to use this in a second again. You can get creative. This is where it gets creative. You don't have handkerchiefs. You don't have headbands. Guess what? Pair of socks. Doesn't matter. Instead of just folding them, just put one on top of each other. Guess what? That looks pretty good to me. I wrap it around. There you go. If you want to get feel fancier because you know you're a fashionista, here you go. Just use different pairs of socks. And hopefully we don't get to this, but you can use your holiday socks too. You might want to keep those around and hope you never have to use those. My wife uses these headbands, which she loves using, and she looks great while she's using them. She looks great without them too. So these are headbands that people will wear around like this. That also works perfectly fine if you want to use that. It kind of works the same way as you would a handkerchief. What you would do is use that, and if you want to have another one you want to use, you want to put on top of that, you can do that as well. I have friends who are bikers, and these headbands that we normally would use, bikers use, put them over their head and neck, as so. And when it gets cold outside, all you do is one of these. Now, if you want to put several to create layers, I would recommend you do that too. I would leave this as a last resort because this is very thin and it's intended to be thin. So that is one option that you can do. And I'm doing a little shout out here also to my friends. As you can see, I'm an Indian fan. An option that you would have is if you don't have a rubber band and you can't figure out the whole thing, is use this to tether the mask. So if this is what you need to do, then this is what you need to do. So just get creative as best as you can. And more importantly, one of the things that I would say is try to stay home, follow logic, common sense, follow your federal and state regulations or city regulations on what you need to do in regards to whether you have mandated stay-at-home orders, whether you are just recommended social distancing, whatever it is. Now, this is a very tough time for all of us, and sometimes we overlook the fact that our children are going through this, and as adults, we have the ability to kind of discern certain things and to put some logic behind it and to kind of make some sense out of it, and sometimes we don't, even as adults. But children may have a problem with it. So now that it's going to be a thing for everybody to walk out with some kind of cloth mask, you might want to get your kids involved in doing something like this, making more like a house family project. What I would recommend also as well is to, as much as you can, make it fun. So if you have to have your kids go out, and try to make some light out of it, try to make some fun out of it. You never know how this is affecting them when they go out and see people on the streets. So try to make it fun, because laughter is the best medicine.